Hey everybody, I'm back with another battle report, this time coming off of my grand tournament that I had last weekend. Just wanted to test some new things and kind of get my head right with the new meta that's going to be coming out for 40k. By the time that this is going up, the chapter approved details have pretty much been leaked by now, so if you want to go check on those, you can. A lot of people are mad about some of them. I'm disappointed to see that there was so little done to orcs when orcs need so much help, but we'll hold out for the codex. Until then, I will be playing Chaos as my competitive army, as I continue to have, and they'll probably get even better when Demons comes out in January. So looks like there's going to be a lot more Chaos before I can get back to orcs in any kind of competitive capacity. But coming off of the grand tournament that I went to, I decided to make a list with no Malefic Lords in it because I knew that they were going to get nerfed. Spoilers, they now cost 80 points per model, which means they're completely unplayable, like really bad. Went from being the best unit in the game to pretty much trash. And then also, it's been stated that Smite will be changing in chapter approved, which very likely means it's going to go up in casting value, so probably to a 6 or a 7, which will pretty much kill off the Smite spam meta, which in my opinion is a very good thing. But I'm trying to stay ahead of that and make sure that I know. Or I have a good list, even as changes are coming to the game. So to that end, I got in a what I wanted to be a competitive game against someone who I've not played before at one of the local shops that's a little farther away from me, but worth the drive because I got to pick up some stuff on Black Friday. So and he ended up playing White Scars. So first we'll go into my list. What I played is pretty different than what I usually play. Oh, and I actually made a mistake on this. I'll update that. But so it's a Demon Prince instead of Abaddon with Iron Warriors. That is the only other way to make cultists immune to morale, is to use the Iron Warriors trait of Cold and Bitter to make them immune to morale. It is only a 6-inch aura compared to Abaddon's 12-inch aura, so you do have to play a lot more compact and be more careful about your character's positioning. But it also comes at a significant savings compared to Abaddon. I pick up 60 points that way, and there's some reasons why I needed to do that. Also, obviously, I lose the reroll all hits in favor of just reroll ones. But when you do the math on having reroll all hits into a lot of targets, particularly targets in cover, obviously, Iron Warriors actually come out mathematically. They aren't as good against hordes, of course, because hordes don't usually get cover, and you just kind of want raw weight of wounds there. But against things like Eldar and Marines, that kind of stuff, the Iron Warriors are actually the better option, and there's not a lot of people playing competitive hordes right now. And then even those that do, I think I have enough firepower and enough screens and stuff like that to make that a winnable game. And then the Demon Prince is also significantly better at killing vehicles, so that's one of the things I'm worried about tying up my units, so I wanted to get him in there. With Intoxicating Elixir, he's Strength 8, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, with an AP2 2 damage weapon, and then also has 8 attacks. So he's extremely good in combat. And then if I'm playing against a vehicle heavy army, I can also give him Demonic Strength or Demonic Vitality, whatever it's called, to get him up to Strength 10, and then get him one more attack. Probably wouldn't do that very often, but it's definitely a possibility. To finish off the battalion for Iron Warriors, I have a Warpsmith. Again, kind of another weird inclusion because I don't have anything for him to repair, but he's actually one of the cheaper HQs. Very similar in points cost to like a Barebones Lord and an Exalted Champion, but he comes with a Melt-A-Gun and a Flamer and a Power Axe, so he's actually pretty good in combat and in shooting, because he also has 2+ ballistic skill. So since both of his guns are assault, he can run around and still shoot stuff. He can be like a little bit of a counterattack guy, and then also, even though I don't have any vehicles to repair, on a 2+, he has an 18-inch range, do a mortal wound to a vehicle ability, which is not great, but it's definitely something to have. So I felt good about putting him in there as a second HQ choice. Still have the 120 cultists that I've been running with. these are now Iron Warriors, of course. Moving on, I have another battalion, super cheap, with a Renegade Commander from Renegades and Heretics. He has Covenant of Slaanesh just to be able to run around when he needs to. I also have the Changeling, and then 3 units of Horrors, no blues this time. They're pretty much just going full screen, full objective grabbing, which is totally fine. And then I have a Spearhead detachment, which is a Barebones Chaos Lord. He just has a bolt pistol and a chainsword, unfortunately, because I don't have any points to give him anything else. And then I have 5 units of Obliterators. It only says 4 on here, but it's actually 5, so I just need to update that infographic. My apologies. And that Spearhead is all Alpha Legion. So not only does this give the Obliterators -1 to be hit, but when you combine it with the Changeling and the fact that the Obliterators have the Demon and Mark of Tzeentch keywords, they get another -1 to hit. So if you're over 12 inches away, you are -2 to hit my Obliterators. If you're within 12 inches, you're still -1, and if you're in combat, you're still -1. So this makes them extremely resilient. On top of having, of course, Terminator armor, you can get the unit into cover pretty easily because there's only 3 of them, stuff like that. So that's kind of where I'm headed with my new list, and that's what it looks like. My opponent was taking a White Scars army. I have not played against White Scars before, but it was a little all over the place. So he has Casero Khan on Moondra Khan, which is just his bike. He has 3 Librarians on bikes. One had the Armor Indomitus or something like that, and the other one had the White Scars Cloak that gives it +1 to cast on Smite. He has an Apothecary on bike. He has 5 Company Veterans on bikes, 1 with a Plasma Gun, 4 with Storm Bolters, all with Storm Shields. He has 5 Reavers with Grapnel Launchers, 5 Scouts with Sniper Rifles, 2 6-man tactical squads with a missile launcher, and each of those goes into a Razorback. And then I think the fast attack got cut off here. My apologies. But he had 3 Inceptors and then 2 units of 4 bikes, each with a Melt-A-Gun. And that was the entire army. So yeah, not sure what's going on with my infographic there. It looked fine when I saved it. But yep, that's his list. Bikes still extremely bad, and also not getting a points reduction for loyalists in Chapter Approved, which is very strange. So not really sure what's going on with that. But kind of looking at the list, I figured, I'm running so many Obliterators. 2/3 of the time, those have multiple damage, so those are going to blow a lot of bikers away. Combine that with the fact that he has some Razorbacks. I'm good at killing those and stuff like that. I should be able to deal with the army pretty quickly. The Storm Shields are definitely a problem, and the Apothecary can be a little bit of a problem just because I don't want him to be able to bring guys back. And then the list also has a ton of bolter fire. It has very little anti-tank, so my Obliterators are pretty much going to be running the show. But with all the bolter shots from all the bikes, the assault cannons, the Inceptors, all that kind of stuff, I do have to watch out for my cultist units and try not to let them get killed. Oh, I'm sorry, he also had a Thunderfire cannon in this list as well. I just forgot to put that in. I do apologize for that. We ended up playing ITC mission number 2, which is Crucible of Champions. It's the one with 5 objectives. If you hold 3 or more of them with characters, you get a bonus point. For secondaries, I took Headhunter because there are 4 characters, Recon because that's usually my go-to one when I don't have easy ones to get from my opponent, and then Kingslayer for Khan. Again, did not really have a great option. I can only blow up 2 tanks, stuff like that, so I figured I'd get Kingslayer because I think that gets me 3 points. I don't remember how many wounds he has, but like I said, I didn't really have another good option. Marines are extremely good in the ITC format because they don't give up very many secondaries, which is kind of a weird balancing thing to me, but it is what it is. For his secondaries, he chose the Reaper, as most people do against me, behind enemy lines, which makes sense with all the bikes, and Headhunter because I still have a good amount of characters, although much less than I used to run, and they are a lot harder to kill. So with that, here's a shot of my army. I am proxying quite a bit for this game, so bear with me. The orc with the stick, who's usually a weird boy, was actually I think he was the Warpsmith this game. The little Skaven with the banner is the Renegade Commander. The empty long base is the Demon Prince. I actually bought a Age of Sigmar cavalry model that I plan on converting to a Demon Prince that I think will look really cool, but I just bought him that day, so I didn't have another base with me or anything like that, so my opponent was cool with it. And then I have some Terminators in the back there that are acting as my 5th unit of Obliterators. They're not on the right size bases or anything, but they at least look sort of correct. So some proxying, but not horrible. This is my setup. You can see I'm going really deep into my right corner. Um, Not only do I have to be more compact because the aura for morale is shorter by 6 inches now, but also because the White Scars army is so fast, I want to make sure that I'm in a good defensive formation so that he can't, ride circles around me or kind of spread me out or anything like that. I want him to come to me and take away that, how powerful his speed is. I also have the Changeling and the Chaos Lord. You can see kind of on the left-hand side of the screen there. I have to place these pretty carefully because I need to think about where I want my Obliterators to come in. So again, keeping with my castling this game, I'm probably going to bring them in kind of on that terrain, those 2 terrain pieces you can see in the foreground, or in the gap between it, and then just, bunker up there and make my stand. Unfortunately, this does put my brown unit of cultists kind of in a bad position. What I think I should have done is mixed the 2 units a little bit more so that each of them could shoot some and get into the action, and I could make some advances and so that if I needed to. But I'm still learning how to deploy this army. It is much trickier to play than my other one, which I like a lot. It's way more interesting. But yeah, and then I have some horrors. They're kind of behind each terrain piece. For this game, we played level 1 of Ruins, block line of sight, and then the forest block line of sight in totality. Unless you're inside them, then you can see out and you can still be seen. This is just a view of the other side. You can see I have some horrors kind of all over the place, just either acting as bait or ready to go make a move on some of those objectives. And this is a view from the side. You can see here that there's a bike unit. Most of the bike units are hiding out behind the terrain and things like that. The Inceptors and the Reavers are, of course, in deep strike, but he's also adopted kind of a more spread out position than I did. So I'm pretty much going to be able to fight against the closer units, while the farther Razorback and Bikers will have to move. The Scouts I can deny line of sight to as the game goes on, so they won't be able to shoot me very much. Things like that makes it a little bit in my favor as far as deployment goes. We rolled for first turn. White Scars got first turn, which I was okay with because, again, I want him to come to me a little bit, and I can't see much of his army right now anyways, so I wouldn't have a big first turn as it is. So this is just a little bit better shot of his deployment. You can see the Thunderfire Cannon there and the Razorback and the Librarians on bikes. Really cool looking army. I think bikes look really awesome on the tabletop. It's a shame that they're not a little bit better. And then, yep, so this is movement phase for first turn. The tactical squad gets out of one of the Razorbacks, kind of moves around. The Razorback moves to get some line of sight. Most of the bikers move up into the forest so they can get cover and do some shooting. So pretty good terrain for him in that respect, which is fine. I'm okay with that. Most of my army is still hidden except for the cultists, of course, that I can't really hide. On the other side, the other Razorback kind of pops its head out there. The bikers are moving around the building onto that left objective, which is okay with me because they're still pretty far back. They can't see much. And then you can see through the trees a little bit that the Reavers came down on that left-hand side. That's really good for me because I planned on kind of conceding the table to the White Scars for the first 2 or 3 turns. And the Reavers being over there, they're not a fast unit, so I can just run away with the Brimstones or they'll get killed or something. But then they're not going to play any part more in the game, so the Reavers are kind of not something I have to worry about right now. And then here's the Inceptors coming down. Unfortunately, their bases are broken, so they're just kind of hanging out in the building, but we get the gist of where they are. And then here's a better shot of the Reavers and that bike unit coming around the building that the Scouts are in to grab that objective. Alright, so this is post-shooting. There is Psyche didn't really do very much because it wasn't really in range of smites just yet, being a little, playing a little bit back because he doesn't want to come right at me. That could be pretty dangerous, but he does manage to kill quite a few of the cultists there. Doesn't kill the whole unit, which is all I care about. Also reduces that horror unit you can see on the left-hand side of the screen over just to 3 people. I had some of them poking out, so that was bad deployment for me. I could have had them so that they didn't get shot at all unless he puts the Thunderfire Cannon to them, but the Thunderfire Cannon actually ended up killing nothing. It rolled extremely poorly, and it didn't have Con around to give it any kind of reroll 1s or anything like that. I was very surprised surprised to see that Khan does not give reroll everything. I thought he was a chapter master for White Scars, but he just gives reroll ones, which makes him quite a poor selection in my opinion. But anyways, good shooting phase for me because I just lose some cultists and I'm just going to recycle, so no real big deal. The Changeling does take 2 wounds from sniper fire, so I got to move him over somewhere that he can't be seen, but not too big of a deal because there's not really that much else that's going to threaten him. And this is just kind of a shot of the board. You can see here that I've lost some of those brimstones, but I also have the Renegade Commander to serve as a backup objective holder. That's kind of one of his only jobs in the list, other than, you know, letting me get a 2nd battalion for command points. And over on the left side, I lost a couple of the horrors. Again, some of them were poking out, so they got shot with some pistols. But that kind of helped me because my opponent actually ended up rolling like a 10 for the Reaver's charge distance, but because I got to pull casualties, he didn't make that charge. Which was, you know, like I said, ended up being a good thing for me because I get to keep the unit around, but the Reavers are still just stuck over there. Alright, so this is my movement phase on turn 1. As you could probably guess, I recycled the cultists. Unfortunately, they are a little bit back. I would have preferred to put the Obliterators more back too, but because the White Scars army is still not coming to me as much as I was maybe hoping, they need to be where they are for range. I did deploy them not so great. I could have put them all pretty much in that building that I'm holding, the black one there on the right hand side, and then they would have gotten cover. That would be really good against the assault cannon in particular, and then because the White Scars have missile launchers as their main anti-tank, you know, that I would still get a 3+ save against that if I'm in cover. So just something I need to be more mindful of in the future, depending on my opponent's army composition. But yeah, that's how I moved the Changeling over, moved the Chaos Lord in position to give rerolls to everybody, which was very good. You can see him just in front of the cultist there near the bottom. And then, yeah, that's kind of where my bunker is going to be set up for the rest of the game. Over here, just move up with all the cultists. I don't have a ton to do with them. Again, I was hoping the White Scars would come to me a little bit more, so I'm just sort of moving these guys up to make an aggressive play for that right objective, and then maybe swing around and see what I can do. You know, if I need to advance them to act as a screen or something, I will, but there's not a lot of good combat elements in the White Scars army, so that's probably not something I'll have to do. But their cultists probably, you know, won't play that much of a role in this game. The Warpsmith is, again, just hanging out. He hasn't really had much to do just yet because his guns are very short range, and I don't want to run him out there. And then, of course, the Demon Prince, represented by the empty base, is just hanging out to give immunity to morale to my army, which is very important. I don't know why I took this picture of this bike, but yeah, he's just there, so cool bike librarian. Oh, that's right. I think I killed some things that were next to him. So yeah, this is going into the shooting phase. Unfortunately, these trees were kind of blocking a lot of the good shots I was taking, but I shoot the Obliterators, managed to kill the company veteran bikers down to 1 model, so just the guy with the plasma gun is left. I also killed 2 of the Inceptors just with the cultists. The cultists rolled pretty decently, and then thanks to their ignore cover, the 1s and 2s go through, so I only left 1 Inceptor alive with 1 wound, and that was after a reroll from my opponent. Otherwise, I would have gotten the whole unit, which would have been super awesome. And then this is kind of an overview of the table. You can see here that I also wiped out a unit of bikers in the forest. That was what that previous shot of the librarian was. So I've wiped out a unit of bikers, and I've also almost wiped out the company veterans. So not as much damage as I was hoping to do, but the cover is definitely helping him out. I was not rolling very high AP values for my guns, so he's making a good amount of saves. And then, like I said, the cultists aren't really in range of that much stuff yet, so I don't have them as backup, but kind of the game plan is just to eliminate as many bolter shots as I can, and then let the cultists, you know, be really annoying, clog up the board, stuff like that. And now that, you know, the Obliterators are down and my opponent's seeing how much the damage they do, it's likely he's going to focus attention on them anyways. And then since he wasn't able to kill a full unit of cultists last turn, now that he's down, you know, almost 2 biker units and a bunch of the Inceptors, he's not going to be able to wipe out a cultist unit, so it's probably like they're going to be ignored for most of the game. This is, yep, just another... Oh, no, hold on, this is... Okay, so I did not take pictures of the White Scar's turn. I apologize. I don't think he actually moved hardly anything. Basically, the bikers on the left went off into the forest that the brimstones were occupying because I ran them away, and then the Reavers took over the duty of holding that objective for them because the White Scars player realized that they're not going to be able to really participate in this game. Nothing else really moves. The Inceptor ran over to the Apothecary, as did the veteran. Veteran got one of his squad brought back to life with 1 wound, so that was a good thing. But everything else just kind of stays still and shoots. Unfortunately, the combination of the Changeling and Alpha Legion makes it very difficult for my opponent to actually do anything. He killed 2 Obliterators, which I think you can see in this shot that I'm on right now. If you look at that unit, that's the one guy facing backwards, sort of in the middle of the screen. He had 2 buddies, so the entire army kind of combined to shoot into him and kill just 2 Obliterators, and then I think he also wiped out a couple of cultists with some incidental shooting, but not really much done there. The snipers also put 1 wound onto the Chaos Lord, but again, he's not really in any danger of dying, so I'm just gonna kind of move him over to that building where the Changeling is to deny line of sight, and then he'll be fine, and then the snipers won't really have much to do. So yeah, not a very dynamic turn for White Scars. He is still holding more objectives than me, but he's having problems killing stuff, which is a common theme against my army. My army is very resilient, so even though he's holding more objectives, I'm able to get the kill more point, so we're kind of even on scenario as far as that goes. This is my turn 2, so you can see I moved the cultists up to kind of envelop the Obliterators. I'm moving the Obliterators onto cover now, which I should have deployed them on in the first place, so they all have full cover bonus, which is really good. I also put the 1 Obliterator whose 2 squad mates died front and center so that he can eat the smites, because I don't have anything else to move out there. I could have moved the Brimstones, the 3 Brimstones out there, which I probably should have done. Just use the Renegade Commander to hold the objective, but didn't do that, so just, a positional thing to keep in mind for the future, because Smite is definitely the biggest threat the White Scars army has against me right now. Again, just pushing over here on the right, so I get to hold that objective. I'm now holding 2 to my opponent's 3, but I'm going to start trying to shoot him off of 1 to make it a little bit harder for him to get that done and retain that lead on the objectives. And then we have shooting here. This is this is kind of an after effect of my shooting. I managed to do a lot of damage to both of the tactical squads, but they still have a couple guys left. Still have the missile launchers, but just again kind of taking out those bolter shots and then trying to get in to kill the missile launchers at some point. I blew up one of the Razorbacks. This is actually my opponent's movement phase, so he moved the other Razorback forward to kind of protect his librarians and stuff like that. And because I killed the tactical marines and the Razorback, I was able to kill one of the librarians as well. So a little bit less smite coming at me, which is good. Again, not a hugely damaging turn, but the cover and all that kind of stuff is really making it so that I don't kill things as quickly, and then I'm being very cautious with my demon prints and everything else. I'm not just throwing them out there to be focused down or anything like that. So I'm kind of playing a more grindy game, because I think once we hit turn 4 or turn 3, it's going to be difficult for the White Scars to keep up the pace. So this is just the White Scars turn 3. The Razorback moves up to, again, provide, be the closest target for the characters, things like that. The Apothecary, you can see in the back, is just holding that objective with the 2 bikers. He actually ended up moving over to the Inceptor, which is behind the forest there. This is a bit wider view of the field. And then there is a unit of bikers that I have not dealt with over on the left-hand side as of yet. So you can see in this picture that they use the White Scar stratagem to be able to advance, shoot, and charge, which is a really good stratagem, especially on bikes. They zoom in and get in range of Changeling. Huge mistake on my part. I could have easily protected him by just moving those 3 Brimstones, or something, or running that cultist unit that it didn't actually end up shooting very much on my turn, and formed a shield around him so he couldn't be targeted. I don't mind if he's charged so much, because the bikers aren't very good in combat, but it's the shooting that's really scary for him, and Changeling is one of the very important characters to the list, so I have to be a lot better about keeping him alive. And then this is just, some of the positioning. Some of the librarians are backing up a little bit. Like I said, the Apothecary moves over, heals the Inceptor, so that next turn it can hopefully try to bring one of them back to life. Khan moves up a little bit, but overall the center is kind of, just what it has been the whole game. And then this is the Reavers. They advance, kind of leaving that objective, so the scouts moved down to get it because the White Scars realizes that I'm moving my characters so that he can't shoot them, and the scouts aren't doing a ton of damage anyways, as they usually don't. So he's just kind of like using them as an objective camper, but hopefully he can get the Reavers in and do something with them at some point. The bikers here managed to kill the Changeling. Just rolled a ton of bolter shots at him basically, and then even with the -1 to hit, couldn't keep him alive. I think he only ended up taking 3 wounds, but I failed all 3 saves, so he went down. Again, could have been prevented easily on my part, so that was definitely something that I figure out I have to do better on in the future. Other than that, shooting is mostly just going to the Obliterators, doing nothing, and then killing some cultists. But again, I don't really care about the cultists, and there's so few bolters left at this point that there's no way that any of those units are going down. So the bikers try a charge into my some of my Obliterators there to tie them up and stuff, but I managed to get a pretty decent overwatch, roll some 6s and then use the Chaos Lord to reroll some, and I kill 3 of the bikers, which really puts a damper on the charge. And then when he does get in on the Obliterators, I Heroic Intervention with the Lord and the Renegade Commander, so I have a lot of attacks there. And then I end up killing the biker. Took 1 more wound on the Lord just from a chain sword attack. He doesn't feel like making saves today, but I put down that other biker unit so that they're I don't have to worry about anything else getting into my backfield because there's really nothing fast left that's even anywhere near me. And this is just kind of an overview of my turn 3. At this point, we both realized it was pretty over, but he wanted to let me finish out my turn, so I ended up killing the Razorback. I kill Khan. I kill both the tactical squads, so no more missile launchers left. And then I think I killed 1 more Librarian, so there's only 1 Librarian left now as well, leaving the army with just 5 Reavers, the Scouts, 1 Librarian, 1 Apothecary, the Thunderfire Cannon, the 2 company the 2 company vets, and then the 1 Inceptor. But my army at this point is swarming all over the place. I can crash through that forest pretty soon and start charging stuff so that he can't shoot anymore, get locked in combat with the Thunderfire Cannon and all that. Like I said, it's also very hard for him to hold objectives now. That center one is anything he puts there, I'm just going to shoot to death, so he can hold his and the one that the scouts are on, but he's no longer able to score for having more objectives than me, while I'll probably be able to move to the center and make it almost impossible for him to get me out of there, which was kind of my game plan at the start. Like I said, hold the cede the board control, but then as I wear him down with attrition, win from there, and that's what ended up happening. So we called it at this point. I don't think this is just, like I said, some more overview of the board. You can see I moved the Brimstones a little bit too late to act as a to hold back anything that might zoom over behind me, and also to hold on that objective. But you can see that the White Scars have very little left, and I have plenty left, especially with the Obliterators. And then this is, again, just another overview of the board. The Reavers finished in this position. Scouts are holding the tower. Alright, so that was the end of the game. Like I said, we called it. I ended up gaining a pretty decisive victory. So what did we learn? First of all, bikes are bad and likely to stay bad. So if you're a competitively minded player, bikes are definitely not where it's at. They cost too many points. They are barely more survivable than a regular Marine. All they have is an extra wound, but the game is plentiful with multiple damage weapons, and that's usually what people use to kill Marines anyways. So the fact that they get use out of the D6 or D3 damage portion of those attacks just makes it even better. And then them being fast is okay, but you can't have that many of them. So what happens is kind of what happened this game, where you have a little bit of trouble with holding on to objectives and things like that. And then since GW has made it that bikes can't be troops in any way, you have to take awkward detachments, which gives you less command points. They can't get objectives secured, stuff like that. So it's clear that GW doesn't really want people to play biker armies anymore, at least in a competitive setting. If you want to play it in a casual setting, of course that's fine. And then combined with Chapter Approved not really doing anything to help them, and a lot of the biker characters not actually being in the codex, it's pretty clear that those are on the way out. Another thing is character positioning is super important. This game both my characters and the White Scars characters were some of the more important models in the game. The librarians had access to Smite, which was one of the only tools they had to kind of deal with the Obliterators I had. And then on my side, I had to position Changeling and the Chaos Lord very correctly to make it sure that I was getting those auras stacked on my Obliterators. I had to make sure my Demon Prince was positioned well so that he can give Fearless to the cultists and reroll ones, but Fearless being the main thing. So it's really important that you kind of take a look over the board and see what's going on before committing to any character movements. I lost the Changeling because I just did not accurately see the board as I should have, and could have easily protected him against those bikers, but I just didn't. So that was definitely a huge mistake on my part. My new list, I learned, cannot do recon as well as my old list can. Some of this was down to the fact that we played Dawn of War and the type of army that I was going against, so I couldn't do like a center deployment or anything like that. I don't think I can do center deployment very often anyways anymore, because I need to be close to an edge with the Demon Prince so that when I recycle a unit of cultists, he can keep them within Fearless range, whereas Abaddon had a little bit more leeway with that. And I also need to keep the Obliterators, close to the Changelings, so they can't just be dropping all over the place, and near the Lord so they can get rerolls. So the army is a lot more bunkered up. I still have things like the Brimstone Horrors that can go and get table quarters, but overall I think recon is not as good for this army. And that's something I'll have to kind of deal with in the future, especially when playing against Space Marines, because Space Marines are usually very good at ITC missions. They don't often have many units of 10 or more models. They don't have that many characters. They don't often have too many tanks, so it's very hard to get secondary points off of them. And the last thing I learned is Refused Flank is extremely good on proper tables. So what I mean by proper tables is tables built with correct terrain. So this one we had lots of line of sight blocking. Like I said, the forests were blocking line of sight, so you had to at least go into them. The ruins, first level blocks line of sight, very standard. So I was able to kind of push my army over to the far side and make it so that a lot of my stuff couldn't get shot, some of it due to range. So I was kind of forcing my opponent to come at me at an angle, or if he doesn't come at me at an angle, he has to sacrifice some of his units doing something for the first turn, and that can really take the punch out of someone getting the first turn. So I didn't get to go first this game, but I couldn't be shot by as many things as I normally would have been had I maybe deployed in the center, like a typical game or something like that. That's probably a strategy I'll be using a lot with this list, because like I said, it's very important to keep the Demon Prince around all the cultist units, and the cultists are typically going to have to come back on one of the side table edges, which means that my army needs to be over there already, so that because the Demon Prince can't be in two places at once. That definitely can hurt me when it comes to something like Dawn of War. Dawn of War would probably be the worst deployment for this army with how it is right now, which is what I played in this game. Some of the table quarters ones can be a little bit awkward, but I actually go to having quite a strong game on like Hammer and Anvil or Frontline Assault, I think is the Hammer and Anvil one, where you can go a little bit further in. So those are it's kind of an opposite of what my other list was, where I didn't like Hammer and Anvil and stuff so much, but this one I do. So that's just something to keep in mind as I play the armies some more. So yeah, it was definitely learned a lot this game. It was not unfortunately a competitive game really. The White Scars list was not very optimized, and did not have all the tools to deal with what I was bringing, particularly not nearly enough anti-tank and stuff like that. So certainly some things that could be improved there, but I got to practice, moving the army around, seeing what the damage could do, particularly seeing how much damage the Obliterators can absorb, which is, quite a bit. So moving forward, we'll see how that goes, and see if this is kind of a viable army, or if I need to make some tweaks to it, or what's going on. But yeah, like I said, pretty enjoyable game from a learning perspective, and then I should have another battle report up pretty soon, because I got another game in this weekend, which was awesome, also against Space Marines, so we'll see how that one goes. But thank you for checking out this one.